Okay, so I'm going to kick this off and we'll get started here. And those that join in can just join in the fun as we roll. But on behalf of WAC Lighting, I'd like to thank everybody for joining in on our Colorscaping webinar that we're hosting today. My name is Todd Goers. I know many of you, I'm sure, on this call. I work for WAC Lighting as the sales director in the Green Industry Channel. Also on the call today, we have Aubrey Bertin, who is Executive Sales Director and for WAC Lighting. And we got Michael Sabolcik, who is the manager of our IoT department. So with that, again, I want to say thank you for joining in. Obviously, the name of our new product line that we're launching, and just on the onset, only been out for a couple of months at best here, is called Colorscaping. But I think one of the things you'll find today as we roll through this, the name could have been something entirely different. We feel that this is a system that, will be greatly used on the tunable white features, and the bonus is you get millions of colors alongside of the white range from 2700 Kelvin all the way to 6500. So we'll get into that later, but just as a sidebar, if you're a distributor on the call, this has been a very, very popular launch for us. Very hard to figure out how popular something's going to be until you roll it out. But if you haven't already taken stock, I would encourage you to potentially get your orders in. Touch and go on inventory. If you had, and unless you brought in early inventory until probably May, I'll call it. So it has been fast and furious for us, and we get product in, we ship product out, and it goes rather quickly. So just an FYI on that. With that, I'm going to go briefly through the agenda that we're going to have for you today. And before I do that, though, I want to just preface this presentation with, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and Michael, myself, Aubrey will get to them as we see them and can fit them into this presentation. Okay, so you just hit the chat box and type in your question, and we'll try to answer everything. What we don't get answered, we'll try to get you the answers out at the end of the webinar. For the agenda today, we're going to go through the basics here, why landscape lighting is important. We're going to go through the tips to grow your landscape lighting business. The colors, the Colorscaping system that we're bringing out to the marketplace, and integration of the Colorscaping into control systems, which it also will do. So if that's something you're looking to bring into your already existing, home automation, you're going to learn here today that is something that is very possible. With that, I'll turn it over to Aubrey to kick off the leading points of the agenda here.
Thanks so much, Todd. And thanks everybody for joining on the call today. So I'm going to start off with kind of a really simple premise is, why is landscape lighting important? And obviously, which would you rather come home to? This was actually taken from the landscape lighting Facebook group. Thank you for whoever posted it, but I think it does a great job of illustrating kind of what the before and after could look like. And this is just with 8 simple landscape lights, right? And this is the front face of your home. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of elements, from curb appeal to safety, security to beautification, safe passage, all these things that go into landscape lighting in the front of the home, but that can also be applied to the sides, exterior of the home as well. And then we'll talk about, kind of where Colorscaping fits in. But as a general premise, obviously lighting, in this case, you can see the steps and the hardscape light has been lit up. Obviously, that's going to increase your ability to pass through your own space safely. It's also going to be able to extend your living space, right? So if you're indoors and you're kind of confined to your own living room, your kitchen, being able to see beyond those windows, those reflective mirrors, at night, really just expands your living conditions. So, you can do all sorts of effects with this, with landscape lighting. Obviously, many of you on the call are already familiar with this. The idea of lighting up the, front face of the home, as well as, larger trees and shrubs, in the area to kind of create this expansive look. It can create a beautiful effect. The National Realtor Board said that, coming out of COVID, this was one of the top 7 ways, in addition to adding a pool to your house, to create additional value for your home. So if even if you hate the look of it, I've never met anyone who does, but if you hate the look of landscape lighting, if nothing else, it'll add value to your property should you go to resell, maybe once interest rates come down. So the other thing would be to kind of accent architectural features like this beautiful rock archway that you've got here, as well as the pathway lighting you're seeing there as well. Again, to create this safety, security, both for passage and also as a deterrent to any bad behavior that could occur nearby. We're going to talk about a little bit about effects. One effect might be this silhouetting effect, where you kind of shine light behind a tree or planting to kind of create, a beautiful image in the evening. And so there's a few reasons we just talked about. So one is obviously beautification, right? Focal points are they're going to stand out, they're become more beautiful. Textures that are harder to read in daylight, you can really make a lot more powerful by bringing light really close to them, such as those rock walls or archways and grazing effects. And you can do that both on, the landscape itself, meaning the shrubbery, the trees, as well as the architectural elements. So the rock, the brick, the face. For usability, obviously, it's going to extend your, how long you can spend outdoors. If you have no outdoor lighting, or if you just have some harsh floodlights overhead, you're not going to want to spend a lot of time in that space. When it comes to evening time, you're going to pack up, you're going to head indoors, and you're going to turn on your TV. Obviously, landscape lighting could help you enjoy your outdoors for longer. And we saw a bunch of this, especially during the COVID years, as we call them. Safe passage, we spoke about this. Anytime you're in a change of elevation, so that's steps, hills, any low-hanging or thorny vegetation, you're going to want to make sure that area is lit. So usually this is a basic starting point for homeowners who are new into landscape lighting. We talk first about safe passage and say, hey, don't you want your walkway lit up to your property? It'll be safer, easier to make that passageway. And so that's kind of the entranceway, the gateway drug of landscape lighting is a safe passage. Security. So, well-lit landscape or well-lit home is going to deter potential intruders by eliminating dark areas and shadows that could conceal movement around a property. And then value. We spoke about this National Board of Realtors and kind of, creating this ROI. There was another statistic that showed that homeowners who had previously had landscape lighting in their homes, they made it a point to look for it on any future purchases. So you can see that this is kind of a growing and very sticky detail, if you will, in terms of this is something that people want to continue to experience. So some basic tips, and again, many of you, this is your, a huge part of your profession, and so you don't need my tips. You already know. But if you're new to the game, bringing it up early, especially if you're involved in the home building process early. Preparing by putting PVC sleeves under locations for driveways, walkways, helps create this idea that you are the go-to person for this. You've helped them. It's not expensive right at that point, but it is very expensive, or could be very expensive later on should you try and go after the fact after everything's been installed. So this is a great way to kind of position you as a landscape lighting expert to be able to cover the landscape lighting at a later time. Planning for transformer location. So if you are early in that home building process, being able to specify 128 volt outlets, being strategic about where those transformers might be powered from is a smart way. And again, helps link you to when they finally cross that road. Once they finish the interior of the space and they're ready to talk exterior, you become their go-to contact. If you're not a local landscaper already, we encourage those types of partnerships. We think that's, that can be a powerful, powerful partnership, especially, the one between integration and landscape, I think could be very fruitful. There's additional potential benefits, of course, as you could wind up with service contracts for cleaning adjustments, tie in holiday preset scenes, game day decision, game day colors, all those things. Could certainly be additional potential benefits for this as well. And so That's all great. That covers landscape lighting, but why are we talking about tunable and color, right? So inside, inside the home, we always talk about tunable white light, right? Especially on furnishings and general spaces. And, basically, why would the outside be any different? You can make evergreens appear even greener by lighting them with a cooler color temperature. You can make Japanese maples more vibrant by lighting them with a red. You could take contemporary homes. A lot of people are going for the white, house with the black shutters, black trim. You can make that look super clean with a nice cooler color temperature versus a wood home that might look nicer under a warm 2700 or warmer light. And so summer scenes as well, when you have foliage versus winter scenes, you can have different presets for each. You can tune whites in the same job depending on what they're lighting. So if you had a brick wall in one area, you can light that with a warmer color temperature versus the white house. You've also got, of course, color options for holiday scenes, game day, or entertaining atmosphere. And while many people kind of jump to this thought as their first thought when they think of colored lighting, I think it is kind of a secondary approach. I think 300 days out of the year, you're probably not going to have it on those preset colors. You're going to be on white lights or variants of it, but it is a great addition to have. There's no denying it, but I wouldn't make it the core of your sales pitch if I were. Of course, there's going to be millions of possibilities. So you're going to be able to group scenes, control, variants of different colors. You can individually address, and I'm going to let Michael, I don't want to take away Michael's whole pitch here because he's going to be very excited about that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael to talk through the Colorscaping system in detail, and take it away, Michael.
Sure, Aubrey. Thank you so much. And just let me know you can see my screen here.
We can see it.
Outstanding. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoy being here. I am the product manager for WAC lighting within our IoT group. So WAC has an entire team whose role is to work on our smart lighting products. So we get to work with the product managers in our various verticals when it comes to making fixtures that are smart and adding technology to those products. So I thoroughly enjoy getting out in the field, working with folks, and really my goal is to make your lives better, make your lives easier, and to make products that really meet those needs that you have in the field that we can help you with. So what you see on the screen here is the portfolio of products that we've developed over the past probably 2 years as Colorscaping. So this initially started out as a replacement for a product that was not extremely successful, and that product family had 3 color changing fixtures, had an in-ground fixture, had an accent fixture, and had a path fixture. And over the course of those 2 years, this has grown based on largely feedback from y'all in the field to what you see here on the screen. So we've got an entire portfolio of Colorscaping fixtures. All the fixtures you see here up here on the screen all do support full color. So 16 million or so different renderable colors in all these fixtures, as well as tunable white capability. So we have discrete white LEDs inside these fixtures. We're not using the RGB diodes to create that white, so it gets you a much more beautiful white than you would see trying to use the RGB. And those are tunable from 2700K all the way up to 6500K. So everything from that really warm white all the way up to that moonlight capability, with the exception of, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, the tape light. The tape light's 2700 to 5K, but you still also have that full color capability. So we're going to get into a little bit of the fixtures and some specifics around the fixtures. So this is our directional family. So we've got 3 different size accent fixtures, all the way from the smaller accent at about 570 lumens on the white, really nice for smaller landscape plantings, that type of thing, all the way up to our power accent, which is pushing out well over 1,100 lumens in that white. Originally, this started out with 2 accents, the regular accent and the grand accent. But based on that field feedback, that folks wanted something specifically to get them more in the color side. As you can see, between the grand accent and the power accent, on the white side, you're not getting a lot, but on the reds, the greens, you're getting a ton more output out of that power accent fixture. So just trying to provide a portfolio of these fixtures that you're going to be able to use to really do a complete job when it comes to creating a landscape lighting design. The accent and grand accent, as you can kind of see down at the tail end, the beam adjustability is built into the fixture. So anything from 20 to 60 on the accent and 20 to 70 on the grand accent. These can be adjusted easily in field. There's no tools required. You can go out and just adjust that by turning that tail cone. Also, we come with the standard shroud, but we also have the honeycomb louver and the longer shroud if you want for more glare control on those fixtures. And then the power accent beam adjustability on that is achieved through a series of interchangeable lenses. So there are 4 lenses, 15, 25, 45, and 60-degree lenses on those. And just so everyone's aware, and you can kind of see here on the finish, these are available in 2 finishes, a black and a bronze in aluminum. And we also have available the bronze finish on a brass fixture for those severe environmental installs. So we wanted to be able to support those installs as well. So you'll see here, the majority of these fixtures are available in that bronze material as well for if you're working in marine environments, where you're dealing with salt and fog and that type of thing. That's also available for you. Our wall wash. This is extremely popular for crazing of walls, whether they be exterior walls, retaining walls, that type of thing. Provides a really nice, broad crazing effect. Also full color, just like all our other fixtures, full color and white. And then the in-ground. This is really nice for situations where you want to uplight elements, but you don't want to see the actual fixture itself. The wall cylinder, very popular. This wall cylinder, it's a smaller form factor. It's kind of hard to tell from the picture. But this specifically, if you are in an area where you have pool cages, this is designed to fit on the posts of those pool cages, the extruded aluminum posts. But you can install it anywhere else as well, pergolas, that type of thing. The fixture provides an uplight and a downlight. It is configurable within our app to be either all the time an uplight, all the time a downlight, or both up and down. But one thing to keep in mind is it is seen as one fixture within the system. So you can have one color or white value both up and down. We don't currently offer the ability to have orange up and blue down if you're a Florida Gators fan. But it's a really nice fixture, and it also helps tie in some other portions of the landscape that aren't necessarily foliage. So, you can tie this into pergolas, patio fixtures, that type of thing really nicely with this fixture. Our hardscape lighting, great for crazing of walls, benches, step lights. We have 2 versions of this, a 7-inch and a 12-inch. These do feature the same removable light engine that our other hardscape fixtures support. So in installations where you're mounting it under capstones, you don't have to have the light engine portion of that out there until you're ready to install it. So it just makes for a nice clean install there. And then we have a portfolio of path lights. So we pulled some of the most popular designs, both our traditional designs as well as our more contemporary designs. The traditional, we have the Tiki, very popular historically. And then for the more current designs, we have the Ledge and the Balance. These are all, very similar in design to our existing products. And then finally, we have our tape light, and this is probably the latest product along with the power accent that you saw earlier to be launched with the product. So this allows you to use our new outdoor full color spectrum tape light with Colorscaping. So this module you see up here, it connects to the Colorscaping, the landscape wiring upstream, and then connects to the tape here on this side. So it's allowing you to power that outdoor tape using the power and control from the Colorscaping transformer, as opposed to having another control system there in play. One of the big wins of this, it is available in 1 foot, 5 foot, 10, 15, and 25 foot sections. You can actually power an entire 25-foot section of this tape with one of these controller boxes, so long as you have 9 feet or less of wire between the controller and that tape section. So you can actually run some pretty extensive sections of tape with one of these controllers, but you can have multiple of these controllers connected to a transformer, so long as you're staying under the wattage budget or the VA budget of that transformer. You can run multiple sections of tape, and we'll talk about it a little later. You can actually group them together and have them behave as if they were one section of tape, even though it's multiple controllers connected to that transformer. The tape is field cuttable, so if you need 14 feet, you can take a 15-foot piece, trim off the last 12 inches. We do provide a cap and sealant to seal the end of that, so you'll have a nice finish to that. But keep in mind, you can't. It's just field cuttable at that end. You can't field cut and put a connector back on and connect it like you can with some of our indoor tape products. So it's just that one end that's field cuttable. And then we do include our wall station in this portfolio. This is the nice part about WAC owning our smart, and I'll toot our horn a little bit here. You know, the IoT team that I work on, we're responsible for all the smart lighting products within WAC's portfolio. So we recently launched a new smart version of our indoor tape product. And in conjunction with that, we launched this Wi-Fi wall station that allows you to recall 4 scenes within the app from this wall station. And so it made sense, if you need a touch point for your customers that isn't the app, it isn't a normal schedule. And we'll talk about schedules a little bit when we get to the app. But if you need for that homeowner, that property manager, to have a touch point where they can interact with the landscape lighting physically without an app, this is a great option. It uses Wi-Fi to communicate with the transformers. It fits inside a standard wall box. It is line powered, so you know you would likely need an electrician involved to help you install it if you're only low voltage. But that's a really nice use case for those who aren't app savvy. They don't have another control system in play that has keypads. We wanted to give that capability there. Now, the big win with all this, we were talking about all this capability, colors, individual addressability of these fixtures. We'll talk about grouping and automations here in a minute. But one of the big things and one of the big requirements we heard from the field was, we don't want to be running additional wiring. We're very comfortable running standard landscape wiring. There are some systems where you have to run additional wire. It's complex, it's cumbersome. It requires additional knowledge in many cases. How do I terminate that wire, etc. Everything you've seen here, all of the Colorscaping fixtures you've seen so far, are all using standard landscape wiring, standard 2-conductor landscape wiring that you're used to using. The same rules apply to wiring Colorscaping fixtures that apply to standard landscape fixtures. So you still need to remain under your voltage or under your current budget. You need to, account for voltage drop. Now, I will say these fixtures, when you're doing your voltage drop calculations, we advise you to stay north of that 10 volt. All of the taps on our transformers are 15 volt. The fixtures themselves account for voltage drop, so you don't have to worry about, do I connect to the 12 volt tap, the 13 volt, the 15 volt, because I have a long run. The fixtures will account for that, but you still need to stay above that 10 volt level for the fixtures to be able to perform correctly. But we do put data on top of that power that's going to those fixtures. So once you tie the fixture into the transformer, it's going to be able to start getting communication from the transformer, you'll be able to control it and add it to groups and add it to automations or scenes as well. The other big win, we know even with the expanded portfolio of fixtures, there are going to be other types of fixtures you're going to need to do a comprehensive job. Maybe you have some step lights, you have some indicators. Maybe it's a job where there's already some landscaping or landscape lighting on the job. We incorporated into our transformer the ability to power and control legacy fixtures as well. So legacy low voltage landscape fixtures. You can see here on the screen, we have the transformer opened up here. Zone 1, this is where you're going to connect all of your colorscaping fixtures. That's where your smart fixtures are going to connect. And that's the zone that the transformer communicates with those fixtures. But we also include Zone 2 over here. Zone 2 is your legacy zone. So legacy luminaires, so long as they're those 12 to 15 volt luminaires, you can connect them back to this transformer. You do get remote control, wireless control over those, on, off, and if they are capable of being dimmed, we can dim as well. So if you see that within the app, it's just not going to show you the full color capability, but you will have the ability to turn them on, turn them off, and dim them. They can also be included in groups as well as those lighting scenes. So now you have the ability to take all of the landscape lighting on the property and tie it together into one lighting scene that you can recall easily or schedule. It is a 2-wire system. We also have a local control panel, and this was driven largely by customer input. In many cases, the person installing the fixtures is not the person who's going to be doing the setup. They're not the person who's going to be configuring the system. They're not going to be connecting it to Wi-Fi. Maybe it's not even connected to a network at the time. But it's critical for them to be able to know that they've installed those fixtures correctly, that the fixtures are wired correctly, so that when that next person comes out to do their job, they'll be ready to do that. So the control panel, it's a very simplified interface to interact with the fixtures that are connected to that transformer. So, you can use it to pair the fixtures. You can see here we have a small infographic here that says when you've added fixtures, and this is part of the patent pending part of colorscaping, is how do we discover fixtures that are connected to the transformer and ensure that that transformer is able to control them. But you do that discovery process here or within the app. And once those fixtures are discovered, you can control all those fixtures. You can't individually control them, but you can control all of the colorscaping fixtures that are connected to that transformer using the control panel here. You can cycle through the 16 presets that we have built into the transformer. So we've got 6 full color, 6 dimmed color, and then 4 tunable white presets that are built into the transformer, and you can just cycle those fixtures through. So once you've discovered those fixtures, if you can come in here on this transformer and change all the fixtures to red, for instance, and you go out and you look, and all of the fixtures that you have wired to that transformer are now red, or at least the colorscaping ones, 2 things. 1, you've wired them to the transformer correctly. 2, they've been discovered. And 2.5, that transformer can now communicate with all of those fixtures. So those fixtures are now paired to that transformer, and they can go on their way knowing that they've done that job. Now we can do something similar with the legacy fixtures that are connected to Zone 2. You would select Zone 2, you would hit the up or down arrow there, and you could then see that those fixtures come on and that they are, you can control them there. We do provide a level and an output indicator on there so that you can know what you should expect those fixtures to be displaying. And then we also have a system and network indicator on there just to show you when the system is fully up and running, when it's connected to a network. If it's having any trouble, we do have diagnostic codes that you can look at there. Lastly, and this was directly from field feedback, we've integrated surge protection into the transformer, specifically for the wired Ethernet, which we support both Wi-Fi and wired Ethernet. We have the antenna you can see on the side of the transformer. That's our Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna over there. And then we have our wired Ethernet connection in here on the transformer. And then we have our 2 DMX ports over here, a DMX in and a DMX out for support of other control systems. But you can see down here at the bottom, we have this little block with 5 RJ45 connectors on there. That is our surge protection block. We wanted to incorporate surge protection into the transformer because if you are running underground Ethernet cables, if you're running underground DMX wires, and you're in an area that's prone to electrical storms, it is very easy for that lightning, for that current to surge through those wires because the wires are a nice, easy path. They get to your transformer, and if we don't put surge protection in there, it's going to do bad things to the electronics themselves. So we incorporated this in here, and we could have done it one of two ways. We opted to make it as a separate piece because if it is subject to surge, and you need to replace it because it is a sacrificial part, if we incorporated it into the electronics above, you'd be in a situation where you'd have to replace all the electronics. By incorporating it as a smaller piece down here at the bottom, if it is subject to surge, it is blown out. The fusing in there has done its job. All you do, there's 2 screws on the bottom of the transformer. You remove those 2 screws, you pop it out, you put a new surge protection block in there, reconnect the wires, and you're back in business. You don't have to remove the transformer, reinstall the transformer, configure things. It puts you in a nice place for that. Other than that, we do, like I said, support the DMX. We do have DMX 512 integrated on here, so you can tie it back to control systems that we may not have a direct network integration with. And then, talking a little bit about flexible wiring, Aubrey brought up the fact that, it makes a lot of sense if you can put power out around the property. That's going to make your life a whole lot easier. That's absolutely true. But one of the things yes, Brad, we do manufacture those in-house, and they're available as a replacement part from us directly. But as Aubrey said, we want you to have as easy a job as possible by making the solution solve problems for you. So you can see here just a very simple installation where we have some accent lighting on a few trees. We've got some uplights, some wall washes, and then a series of path lights. But what could make this installation complex is the fact that I've got a driveway here, and there may not be pipes under that driveway. One of the other things that we often bring up is, if you're ahead of the game in the construction process, hey, maybe ask to put a couple of conduits underneath paths, driveways, et cetera. That way you don't have to bore or anything later on. But what we've done with the system is we've actually made it possible where you can create a group of fixtures. I call it a virtual circuit of fixtures across transformers. So in this case, where we have 2 transformers, one on the side of the house here for all the fixtures that are on this side, because I don't feel like running wires under the driveway, and one up here on the front porch for all the fixtures on this side. Maybe I have another one back here for fixtures in the backyard, but I want to have all my path lights as one group, or all my accent lights on the trees in one group. We actually allow you to do that within the app. So now, as far as the customer is concerned, they have one group or virtual circuit called trees. And it doesn't matter if it's on 1 transformer, 2 transformers, 5 transformers. The control of those is the same. And that applies to groups of fixtures. It applies to lighting scenes. When you create lighting scenes within the system, you can add any number of groups or fixtures from many transformers, and then it's all controlled as one large system or one large solution. One of the questions I've gotten numerous times, our transformers are available in 150 watt and 300 watt transformers. And the reason we didn't go larger was essentially because we have this capability where you can have fixtures from multiple transformers be part of one group. You can now put the transformers where they more logically belong from a voltage drop perspective. Potentially from an ease of installation perspective, but definitely keep that feedback coming. We're still getting a lot of feedback, and I'm hearing some additional information that's kind of taking us down a path where we're reconsidering those larger transformers. But this feature is just something that we were able to do to really make the system as flexible as possible from an install perspective. And just you can see on the right there, just a couple of examples. This is that same lighting install you see on the floor plan or the landscape plan, but you can use that white, and that white just looks really nice. You can tune it, adjust it, but when you want those pops of color, you can very easily do that. It's now all installed. You don't have to worry about doing that at a later date. And the app, this product is supported through the MyWAC app. MyWAC lighting is going to become the home for all WAC smart products as we move forward. It is available for Android and iOS. You use the app to commission the system to the network, either via wired Ethernet or the Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi pairing or the Wi-Fi configuration process, we've drastically simplified that over the years. When you go to add the device, it's going to ask you to scan a QR code. That QR code is this code here on the inside of the door. You go up, you scan that QR code. The app then connects to the transformer via Bluetooth, securely exchanges the network information, and then the transformer will connect to the Wi-Fi network, and it will tell the app, I have been successfully connected. So we no longer go through the whole game of, okay, go to your phone's Wi-Fi settings, find this Wi-Fi network for the transformer, connect to it, come back here to the app. It's all been simplified. It's just a scan of a QR code. If the QR code isn't there, we can go out and search for it as well. And we just give you a list of all of the non-commissioned devices that the phone sees. And it can still use that Bluetooth, or we can fall back to the old Wi-Fi mode to get that thing connected to a network. Once the transformer is connected in the app, the transformer gets added to what we call a location. And the location is where all of those devices in that property exist. Once it's part of that location, you can then you can control those fixtures individually, of course, if that's your desire, but you can also go ahead and create those groups of fixtures. You can then create lighting scenes. And I call them scenes on this. I'm very happy. I've been doing home automation for probably the better part of 20 years. And the reason they're called automations within the app is because outside of the lighting space, not a lot of people, consumers, end users, understood what a scene was unless they had a theater background. So we have automations, which in this space we can call scenes, and you can create those scenes, and those can be recalled either within the app at the touch of a button. They can be recalled using that Wi-Fi wall station that I showed earlier, or they can be scheduled in the system. So we do have full scheduling capability in here. Scheduling can be at a fixed time. It can be daily or by day of week, and it can be done at a fixed time or based on sunrise and sunset for that location. The system can also be used for configuring the transformer's DMX inputs as well. So when you want to, once you've created those groups, you can then go and assign those groups DMX channels that get mapped back to the system. So just really quickly, as we talk about expanding the system, you of course can have more than one transformer on the network, and our system can address them as one location. Or if you're doing DMX to the control systems listed kind of over there on the left, you can connect multiple of those and have that same level of control via DMX that we provide with the network. So I will pause here for a second. We do have some, I think, a little bit more content, right, Aubrey? But it might make sense to get some questions.
Yeah, we're getting overrun a little bit with questions here. I'm running out of steam in my fingers. We got one question here that I'd love your input, Mike, which is, if you can't/don't connect to Wi-Fi, can you still program via Bluetooth?
No. Right now, that's not a capability we provide. The Bluetooth is only there for that commissioning and setup.
Right, and you know, in theory, it could be set up without Wi-Fi using a closed network via a travel router or a personal hotspot, but for continued use, you know, for updates to scheduling and stuff like that, if it doesn't have access to Wi-Fi, it's not going to have time and date. Am I correct in that, Mike? That's
correct. It also, you know, sunrise, sunset, we gathered that from the network as well. So, you know, our We encourage people to try and connect it as much as possible. But yeah, one solution, as you mentioned, you can even set up a small, independent network temporarily to get the system online. You're going to need that to create those groups, create those automations, and the schedules. But there are some workarounds. You can also use, there are several cellular routers that are available, and you don't have to put one on each transformer. You can, of course, wire them back to that one and use the cellular capability. But to your point, to get the best experience, you kind of need that connectivity. Now, also, I could say that once you have it connected and you have those groups created, if you're using DMX as your control platform, you can disconnect them from a network because it's going to get commands from DMX. So any of you're not worrying about those schedules anymore because the schedules will be mainly run by the control system. And then, the control system is going to be responsible for communicating to those transformers via DMX.
Great. We got another one here. On fixed timing, where is the turn off time located? I found the on time, but could not find the off time setting.
Sure. So the way our schedules work, a schedule is tied to an action. So what you would have, and if I had my phone wired in, you will typically have an on schedule and you'll have an off schedule. And the on schedule will trigger the scene that you want it to be when it's on. And you typically can set that for, sunset -15, sunset -30, or a fixed time. And then you would have an off automation. You would create a scene that would turn your landscape lights off, or turn them to what you want for any other time. If you at 10 p.m. if you want to turn your tree accents off, but you want to leave path lights on, or maybe leave those path lights on at a very low level for safety, you can create a scene called landscape, overnight, trigger that automation at 10 p.m. In a schedule. And then you're basically, you have just an additional schedule and trigger an automation then.
Michael?
Yes, sir.
We got a question with our older illuminate fixtures, and it's here's the question. I have some of the older original color changing fixtures. Can I use the new app with them, or do I have to stay with the app that I'm currently using?
No, unfortunately not. That's not a capability that's in MyWAC. So yeah, that would be still the old app. I'm sure if you talk to your rep or talk to Aubrey, we might be able to work something out.
There was another question here. I think there's some confusion around, tape that's found in the WAC landscape lighting, and I can address this one directly. I think it's, that's a different technology, kind of an older technology for our RGB tape. The Colorscaping tape that we're referring to is an RGB WW tape. So there's going to be 2 white chips on board that'll enable you 27 to 5,000 Kelvin tunable white, as well as millions of colors. And that'll also tie into the Colorscaping transformer and kind of work cohesively with the whole system. So a different tape and a different product than you're looking at in the WAC landscape lighting catalog, even if it is fairly recent. We have a brand new one that launched in January with a brochure specifically for Colorscape. There were 2 questions about calendar dates. Right now, all the scheduling is done, kind of a intraday scheduling, but we are going to be adding that calendar feature. Mike, do you have any idea of timing of that? It seems pretty important.
Yeah, it's going into test right now. We had to pull forward some other development work, but being the product manager, I actually have it running right now here at the house, where you can, and just to give everyone kind of an overview of how that is going to work. And unfortunately, this is being recorded, so you can kind of hold me to this, that will allow a schedule to have holidays or overrides. And so, you'll have your normal landscape on automation that gets triggered, but you'll be able to set up date ranges where you can have a different automation run. So for the holiday season, if from December 1st to December 30th, you want, your Christmas lights on, or your Christmas or holiday theme, you can do that. And it's all part of one, we're calling them schedule families. I'm not sure if that's going to be the marketing name, but we call them internally schedule families, where you can, still within the confines of one schedule set, you can have overrides for those specific time periods to allow for holidays, festivals.
Awesome. There's another 2 questions here that lead me to believe that maybe we need to clarify something. The question is largely around controlling color individually per fixture and how the grouping works. And so I'd like to clarify that piece is each fixture can individually be controlled, or you can group them and control them as a group. But even though they are wired in series, it's not a separate run. 10 fixtures in a row, you could have each fixture in a different color all through the app. That signal is sent through the same 2 wires. There's nothing unique, or it's very unique, the ability to do that, but there's no additional wiring needed. So I hope that clarifies for that. And there's another question here that's definitely more Michael speed. Personal hotspot or Jetpack AWS security parameters will not cause an issue connecting, correct? Correct, question mark.
Yeah, that is correct. We've done this on cellular numerous times. And we have not had a problem.
And then we got another question. How does the system work with home automation? Is it only DMX, or are you able to control individual fixtures using the home automation system?
Sure. So with home automation, so there's a couple of tiers of that, or a couple of spheres, and I'll just address them separately. With the kind of retail voice control platforms, so Alexa and Hey Google. I just woke up my Alexa. We can set up the integrations with that, where you can control groups, trigger lighting scenes via those. So that's more on your consumer side. On the integrator side, with the Control 4 specifically, we have some drivers in testing right now, direct IP drivers that'll allow you to add either the individual fixtures or those groups into your Control 4 install, or you can use DMX either via Abacus, which is our Aspire DMX gateway, or via a third-party DMX gateway to the other control systems. They can incorporate either the fixtures or the groups. And it's an install by install decision. I think largely you're going to have groups that you're integrating, because people are typically used to, they're not used to fixture by fixture control of these things. So.
There was another question about separate wiring does need to be run for legacy to connect to the zone 2 on the transformer. And the answer is yes. It would be a separate group that's controlled by zone 2 of the transformer. But if you're walking onto an existing project that already has landscape lighting there that they'd like to keep, basically you could replace that entire existing transformer, put that bunch of wires, because everything can stay the same, directly onto zone 2, and then use zone 1 to add on your new additions, your colorscaping fixtures, and then control all of it. The colorscaping fixture again would give you individual fixture control. Zone 2 or your legacy product, you control all of that as one group.
Yeah, and one other thing, Aubrey, I'll tack onto that, because it's usually a question that follows that. So the transformers are 150 and 300 watt. That is shared between both zones. So you don't have to, it's not 150 and 150 on a 300. You can put, 200 watts worth of legacy and 50 watts worth of colorscaping, vice versa. That capacity is shared between the two. So you don't have to.
And Michael, one other clarification: if there were, and there's no question in the chat, I can pretend there is, but it's me asking. If there's 5 transformers, and you can use the zone 2 on each of them to create a separate zone of control, right? For legacy product, right?
Correct.
So if you did have preset broken out zones for legacy products that you wanted to maintain, you could spread those across transformers in order to maintain that.
Correct. And one other detail, we typically, because we want to keep the conversation simple, zone 1 on the transformer, we typically refer to as the smart zone. It can also be made into a legacy zone. So in that case where you had, five zones of legacy lighting, you could put 2 of those zones on each transformer, so long as you remain within the capacity of the transformer, and you would have 2 legacy zones show up within the system. So if you have scenarios like that where you have a lot of discrete zones that you want controllable, you can put in a colorscaping transformer and have that configured to be 2 legacy zones. You wouldn't be able to put colorscaping on zone 1, but you could, reduce the number of transformers you'd need.
Mike, did you talk about the 15-volt aspect and the auto compensating already?
Yeah, I mentioned it briefly earlier on. But all the taps within colorscaping are 15-volt, and the colorscaping fixtures all account for that. But just make sure you stay in your calculations, and when you're sizing your wire, you're going to want to stay above 10 volts AC going to the colorscaping fixtures, just to make sure they get what they need, and they will adjust their output.
Michael, we had a couple questions with the illuminate fixtures, and I think it might be nice to share. If somebody just confirm that this is correct, if somebody wanted to incorporate their former illuminate fixtures with the colorscaping system, they could do that. They would just need to place those on zone 2 and be happy with whatever color that was they were putting out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
They'd still have to use the legacy app if they wanted to change anything on that fixture.
Right, but they could be tied in. They would just have to be on zone 2.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Mike, there's another question here. What color or hue and saturation level causes the highest rise in VA, like pastel pink with the Luxor system? I believe our VA values are calculated at their most conservative. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct.
So whatever VA is shown on the spec sheet is going to be the worst case scenario. So I hope that helps. Yeah. All right, we're going to hang out just for another couple minutes in case other questions come in. We're getting some great feedback, some great questions. Can you have automation in color changing within a schedule / timing? Yes, you can automate it so that the colors change at a particular time or schedule. For sure, that's a huge.
Yeah, I'll add a little seasoning to that. If what you're referring to, I'm used to with Pentair. They have a series of kind of animated light cycles where it'll go from, they have ocean colors, they have sunset colors, they have party colors, and the fixtures will cycle through those kind of every 20, 30 seconds. That's not really a capability we currently have within the system, but if you want, for a certain period of time, all your lights to be one scene and then another scene. But that's what I'll leave it at that right now. If that was the capability, it's not currently in there. But if you want to set schedules to change those colors, you can do
that. 2 additional questions. First one's going to be, Todd, they're looking for list price on the transformer. I don't know if you have that kind of readily available, or retail that we could provide. And then the second question is going to be, are there capabilities within the app to have a contractor portal to manage sites of clients and to be able to break them out for each company for different users with their own logins?
Probably the biggest ask we've gotten since this is launched. Right now, one location is tied to one account within the app. We are working on, and over the next few months, we're going to be working on capability to allow a user to grant access to an installer to support them. We also are working on having a capability where if you as a contractor set it up under your account, and you then want to transfer it to the customer. We're going to be working on that as well. Our biggest concern, as always, is the customer's experience and making sure we're doing this in a secure way. That that the customer is well aware of who has access to their system, as well as the installers can also feel confident that they can do what they need to do. So yes, definitely stay tuned. Like I said, probably the biggest thing we've gotten feedback on thus far.
Rachel, I got a question for your way. It's, when will this recorded session be available and how will it be distributed? I understand we want to put it on our landing page for availability. I just don't know the timing of it. Rachel, would you be able to speak to that?
Sure, it'll probably be available in about a week.
Very good.
And
then,
Aubrey, the list price, I don't have the list price at my fingertips, but it's going to be in the neighborhood. A 300-watt transformer list price would be in the neighborhood of about $850. I feel pretty confident it's in that range.
There you go. There's some other questions about, does the app provide the option to create a colored theme for game days with an instant on and an instant off? Or do you have to schedule the event? You don't have to schedule the event. You could do it as an instant on or off. You can actually program it directly to your wall controller if you wanted to. If this was a every Sunday kind of deal, you could put button press 2, hit that button, and it'll take place. So another question here is, are there any design assistants? For sure. We have a submittals team that is armed and dangerous. So just send over your requests, your layouts, kind of what you're thinking, and we can work through those designs as well. Can you have color changing automatically from red to green to pink, or is it set colors? We have presets built in. There are 16 presets built onto the app, but you can choose any number. There's a full color wheel. There's also hex values that you can input. So if you knew your team or branding colors, you could input that directly. And yes, you can change between them indiscriminately.
Yeah, so the presets, I mentioned a location. The preset palette is shared across that location. So, if you want to set your team colors, you set them once within the system. And then those presets are shared across all the devices in that location. So you don't have to go set it individually for every device, individually for every transformer. That is shared across that location.
Awesome. We've got 1 minute left, and I don't know if this thing is going to automatically shut off. If it does, we'll get back to you with any questions we haven't answered yet. And I appreciate your time. If it doesn't auto shut off, we're gonna, we can hang for a couple more minutes, or at least I can, and continue to answer questions if you're around to stick around. The rating on the tape light in regards to being used by pools and hot tubs. Okay, well, by pools and hot tubs is just fine, just not in the pools and hot tubs, because it is not rated for human contact, nor is it submersible. For Todd, who's going to win at the Masters?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I wish I knew. Could make some money on that, Aubrey.
Yeah. If anyone knows, I'm willing. Once the installer programs via their account, then the customer sets an account and connects to the transformer, will all the settings populate? So, Mike, I think this speaks to the future ability of that. Is that how it's drawn up?
Yes, that's correct. So the installer would provide a code or a link to the homeowner. The homeowner would then create an account within our app, would log in, would add that location to their app, and then there's a choice whether or not the installer would retain access to that when the ownership has been transferred.
A lot of questions came in about that date, so it's really nice to hear, Michael, that you're already pretty far down the path with having that feature available for the app, with being able to schedule an exact date in there for a scene. So that's wonderful.
Mike, there's a question on max number of groups that can be programmed. It's a lot. I just don't remember the number.
It is, yeah. I mean, mathematically, we support 150 plus groups. mathematically within the location. So you can get pretty granular with it.
They needed 160, so you're off the job.
Oh my
What
god!
if I could get you 192?
There you go. That'll work. There's another question about, do we offer lighting design layout consultation with site plan? Yes, we offer design services. Typically, we'll take an overhead view, street address. We'll pull Google Earth. You tell us kind of what your rough placement, what your intention is, and then we will go through it. So we're not necessarily on site, or at least not here at the factory. Maybe perhaps our reps, customers, contractors, distributors would be, but we're certainly here to assist. Does your design team have a laundry list of needs or questions they would like answered? They do, yes. It's largely, what's your intent? What type of product you're looking for? Do you have a budget in mind? Kind of where should we focus? What areas are important? Those are kind of the short list of questions. And anything else that you guys know of that's pertinent, it helps reduce the back and forth, let's say. There's one request that they don't want the recording because they don't want to hear us. They just want the sheets. They didn't specifically say that, but I'm reading between the lines here. Yes, we can figure out how to get that to you. Another question, 150 groups, but 360 events. Michael, does that mean anything to you, automation-wise?
Events, as far as schedules, they're architected slightly differently. But those are both, I won't say hypothetical numbers. We test them very rigorously, and we're confident that what the system can deal with. But we're also not hard stopping them at that.
There you go. So for now, would you recommend we have the customer connect to the transformer for initial setup? Yes, that is my recommendation for now until we set up the installer customer relationship within the app. I think it makes sense that the customer is the one that is their account that logs in.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Colorscaping products available yet? Yes, there are some, some jobs out there in the marketplace. There are some distributors who currently have inventory. We are moving through the product fairly quickly. So, as of today, we are back ordered on some items. They are coming in May, additional reinforcements, but it's being received quite well. So if you have a need or you have an interest, I would recommend placing an order sooner than later. Turnaround time for design assistance, excuse me. We like to have something turned around within a week. Obviously it depends on manpower, complexity, all sorts of, how much information we get in. But I think inside of a week is a pretty safe bet. One request, do we have any Canadian distributors?
Yeah, well, we certainly do, and I'd like to tackle that one offline. If somebody wants to reach out to me, we can talk about who has stock and who does not have stock, depending on the area of the country that they're in, Aubrey.
Todd, do you want to drop your
Yep.
email address in the chat? And then
Yep. I'm doing it right now.
There you go. To the individual who's looking for Canadian distributors, if you just want to reach directly out to Todd. And it looks like we already got a volunteer. Demo kits. Demo kits are going to be expected in mid-May, and they'll be distributed out to our rep force as well as some customers as well. Thanks, guys, for spending the time with us today.
Really thank you very much.
Yeah.